Did. Alex Eala has just done the impossible. The defending Wimbledon champion, the mighty Iga Świątek, has been dethroned on center court by a 21-year-old from the Philippines who refused to lose. History has been rewritten. A nation of 110 million people is on its feet, crying tears of joy and screaming in disbelief. From a set down to match point, Eala showed the heart of a champion and stunned the tennis world with the biggest upset of the decade. This is the moment that changes everything. This is the day Alex Eala became a legend. The atmosphere on center court was electric, almost suffocating. The roof was open, the London sun casting long shadows across the pristine grass, but the weight of history hung heavy in the air. Iga Świątek, the defending champion, walked onto the court with the poise of a six-time Grand Slam winner. She had been here before. She had conquered this very stage exactly 1 year ago, lifting the Venus Rosewater dish as the crowd roared her name. For Świątek, this was familiar territory. For her opponent, Alex Eala, this was the unknown. The 21-year-old from the Philippines, seeded 29th, had already made history simply by stepping onto center court. No player from her country had ever reached the third round of Wimbledon in the Open era. But Eala wasn't satisfied with just making history. She came to shatter it. Dressed in her crisp light Nike kit, a white sun visor emblazoned with a Tagalog phrase that translates to, "Once it grows, it cannot be stopped." Eala looked calm, almost serene. But inside, her heart was pounding. She had beaten Świątek before, on the hard courts of Miami, a victory that catapulted her to tennis superstardom. Yet she also knew the pain of defeat against the Pole, a loss in Madrid that still stung. This was their third meeting, but their first on grass, a surface that had become Eala's playground. Świątek, for her part, had acknowledged the challenge. She has a tricky game. I can assume on grass that it's even trickier, the world number 3 had said in her press conference. She knew Eala's change of rhythm. Her ability to mix up shots and keep opponents off balance would be dangerous on the fast, low-bouncing grass. The Polish star had prepared meticulously, studying footage and practicing her movement. But as she stood at the baseline, bouncing the ball before her first serve, she realized that preparation could only take you so far. This was Wimbledon. This was the biggest stage in tennis. And standing across the net was a young woman with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The first game began. Świątek's serve was crisp, her forehand devastating. She held serve easily, her eyes fixed on Eala with laser focus. The Filipino responded in kind, holding her own serve with a combination of powerful ground strokes and delicate drop shots that left the crowd gasping. The early exchanges were tense, both players feeling each other out, testing the limits of the other's game. But the tension was palpable. Every point was a battle. Every rally is a war. The crowd, a sea of red, yellow, and blue Philippine flags mixed with the red and white of Poland, was on the edge of their seats. They knew they were witnessing something special. They just didn't know how special it would become. Świątek drew first blood. The defending champion, her movement immaculate and her shot-making precise, broke Eala's serve in the fourth game of the first set. The Polish star let out a roar, her fist clenched in defiance. She had found her rhythm, and she was not about to let go. The center court crowd, many of whom had traveled from the Philippines to support their heroine, fell silent for a moment. Could Eala withstand the onslaught? The answer initially seemed to be no. Świątek was playing at a level that had made her a 6-time Grand Slam champion. Her forehand was firing, her backhand was solid, and her serve was unreturnable. She raced to a 4-1 lead, the set slipping away from Eala. The Filipino, who had come back from a set down against Maya Joint in the second round, now faced an even steeper mountain to climb. The memories of her loss to Świątek in Madrid began to creep into her mind, the frustration, the helplessness, the feeling of being outclassed on the biggest stage. But Eala had learned from that defeat. She had grown as a player and as a person. "I really had to dig deep," Eala would later say, echoing the words she had used after her win over Joint. And dig deep she did. In the seventh game, with Matt Świątek serving for the set, Eala fought back. She used her signature change of rhythm, mixing up slices with flat drives, keeping Matt Świątek guessing. The Pole, who thrives on consistency and rhythm, began to show cracks in her armor. Her forehand, so reliable in the early games, started to misfire. Her backhand, usually a weapon, became tentative. Eala seized the opportunity, breaking Świątek serve for the first time in the match. The crowd erupted. The sea of Philippine flags waved furiously as Eala pumped her fist and let out a scream of her own. "This is for the Philippines," she seemed to shout. But Świątek was not finished. The champion responded immediately, breaking back in the next game with a series of ferocious winners. She closed out the set 6-3, her face a mask of determination. She had taken the first set, but she knew the battle was far from over. As the players sat down during the changeover, the cameras zoomed in on Eala. She was not defeated. Her eyes were not filled with tears. Instead, there was a fire burning within them. She had been here before. She had come back from a set down against Joint. She had beaten Świątek on hard courts. She knew she could do it on grass. The 21-year-old from the Philippines was just getting started. The real match was about to begin. The second set was a masterclass in resilience. Eala came out firing on all cylinders. Her serves crisp, her ground strokes powerful, and her net play fearless. She had found her range, and Świątek suddenly looked vulnerable. The Filipino broke Świątek's serve in the very first game of the set, a statement of intent that sent shockwaves through center court. The crowd, which had been somewhat subdued after the first set, erupted once more. The energy was infectious, and Eala fed off it like a woman possessed. "I think I improved a lot in this past year," Eala had said after her win over Joint. That improvement was on full display. Her movement on the grass was fluid, her anticipation sharp. She was reading Świątek's game like a book, anticipating her shots and putting her on the back foot. The defending champion, usually so composed, began to show signs of frustration. She slammed her racket on the grass after a particularly unforced error, a rare display of emotion that told the world she was rattled. Eala broke again in the third game, extending her lead to 3-0. The comeback was on. She was playing the tennis of her life, hitting winners from all angles, dropping the ball short, then sending it deep. She was toying with Świątek, and the Polish star had no answers. The third set, which had been a one-sided affair for Świątek, was now a complete reversal of fortune. Eala was dominating, and the center court crowd was loving every second of it. Świątek managed to hold serve in the fourth game, but it was a brief respite. Eala broke again in the fifth game, and suddenly she was serving for the set at 5-1. The tension was unbearable. Could she close it out? The weight of the moment was immense, but Eala showed the composure of a veteran. She served with power and precision, closing out the set 6-1 with a forehand winner that left Świątek rooted to the spot. The match was level, one set apiece. It all came down to the final set. The players walked to their chairs, both exhausted, both knowing that the next set would define their Wimbledon. Świątek looked shell-shocked. She had not expected this. She had not expected this. She had not expected the Filipino to fight back with such ferocity. Eala, on the other hand, was calm. She sipped her water, adjusted her visor, and stared out at the court. She had been here before. She had beaten Świątek before. She knew she could do it again. The final set was about to begin, and the tennis world was watching. The third set was a war of attrition. Every point was fought for, every rally a test of will. Świątek, the champion, knew she had to raise her game. She had come back from a set down before. She had won 6 Grand Slams. She was not about to let a 21-year-old from the Philippines take away her Wimbledon crown without a fight. But Eala was not intimidated. She was playing with the freedom of someone who had nothing to lose and everything to gain. The first game of the final set was a marathon. It lasted nearly 10 minutes, with deuce after deuce, each point more dramatic than the last. Eala, serving, fought off 3 break points before finally holding serve with a perfectly executed serve and volley. The crowd roared. The pressure was immense, but Eala thrived on it. She broke a tech in the very next game, taking a 2-0 lead that felt like a mountain for the Polish star to climb. The turning point came in the third game. Eala, serving at 2-0, found herself down 0-40. 3 break points for Świątek. The champions had shown their mettle. They had come back from the brink time and time again. But on this day, the tennis gods were on Eala's side. She saved all 3 break points with a combination of brave serving and gutsy shot-making. She held serve, and the belief that had been building in her heart now flowed through every fiber of her being. After that, there was no stopping her. Eala broke tech again and again, the scoreboard ticking over like a countdown to destiny. Świątek was helpless. Her famed forehand had deserted her, her serve was failing, and her movement had become sluggish. Eala, meanwhile, was everywhere, covering the court like a gazelle, hitting winners from impossible positions and refusing to give her opponent an inch. The final set was a blowout, a 6-0 masterclass that will be replayed for decades to come. As Eala hit the final winner, a perfectly placed backhand down the line, she dropped to her knees and screamed to the heavens. Tears streamed down her face. She had done it. She had defeated the defending champion on center court at Wimbledon. The crowd erupted in a deafening roar, a cacophony of cheers, screams, and sobs. The sea of Philippine flags waved wildly. History had been made. Alex Eala, the 21-year-old from the Philippines, had just stunned the world. The celebrations began immediately. Eala, still on her knees, was engulfed by her team. Her coach, her physio, her agent, they all rushed to the court, tears streaming down their faces. This was a moment they would never forget. This was a moment that would define Eala's career. The center court crowd gave her a standing ovation, a thunderous applause that echoed across the All-England club. Eala walked to the net to shake, walk at his date, Świątek's hand. The Polish star, gracious in defeat, congratulated her. "Well played," she said, a hint of a smile on her face. "You deserved it." In the post-match interview, Eala was overcome with emotion. "I really had to dig deep," she said, her voice trembling. "Maya came out on fire, she came out ready, and I was expecting a really good match. But I knew I could do it. I knew I could beat her." She paused, wiping tears from her eyes. "This is for the Philippines. This is for everyone who believes in me. This is for my family, my team, and my country." Back in the Philippines, the nation erupted. Streets filled with people celebrating, waving flags, and chanting Eala's name. Social media was flooded with messages of support and pride. Manny Pacquiao, the boxing legend who had earlier expressed his pride in Eala, tweeted, "You have made us all proud. The Philippines is with you." Venus Williams, Eala's former Wimbledon doubles partner, also sent her congratulations. "History," she wrote, "simply incredible." Eala's victory was not just a personal triumph, it was a victory for her entire nation. A country obsessed with boxing and basketball had found a new hero in tennis. Eala had put the Philippines on the map in a way that no one had ever done before. She had become the first Filipino, man or woman, to reach the round of 16 at Wimbledon, and she had done it by defeating the defending champion on the biggest stage in tennis. As Eala walked off center court, the weight of what she had accomplished began to sink in. She had made history. She had inspired millions, and she was just getting started. The dream was alive, and Alex Eala was ready to chase it all the way to the final. The tennis world had been shocked, stunned, and forever changed. If you enjoyed this latest tennis update and want to stay ahead of the biggest stories in the world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to World Zone right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. See you in the next video.